Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, and my friends, this is your starter guide for Azucena in Tekken 8. So we're going to cover a lot of factors about Azucena, some of the best moves of her moveset, going to give you some example combos and tell you just kind of how she works in general. So of course, naturally, there'll be a bunch of timestamps everywhere for you. And to note here, just to talk some pros and cons about the character, she kind of presents more difficult than she actually is. Like, we got all the dancing, sure, that's really cool. We got all the crazy stances, and you think, wow, okay, she must be complex. And no, not really. I think she's actually one of the least complex characters in the game. When you're in a stance, it's specifically to do like a move and then kind of leave stance, and then you go about your business. In a lot of ways, she's about as straightforward as a sledgehammer, let's put it that way. When we talk about 10 essential moves, that's going to be at the top of the list. And because she has some certain overwhelming strengths, she's not as tricky as you would think. Her mix-up potential is average, I guess. Her lows, they're workmanlike. They're certainly not best in class. She has some interesting ways about evasion compared to some of the rest of the cast. And evasiveness. And a trait that is lessened in Tekken 8 compared to Tekken 7 is counter hits and like what you can get off a counter hit. And what she gets off counter hits is patently absurd. So if you can just disrupt the enemy's flow and knock them around with counter hits, you are going to be very well rewarded, as we'll go into later in the video. But yeah, Azucena just kind of as a whole, easy combos, easy just kind of offense structure off the back of one of the most ignorant moves just in the game, period. Serviceable button, serviceable neutral, nothing overwhelming, but a lot of decent tools. And she's kind of just pretty straightforward all in all. If you just want like classic rushdown, classic pressure, she is a really solid character for it. Now, as always, Tekken move lists are scary. There's a heck of a lot of moves. So what I'm going to be doing in the next section is telling you the 10 essential moves you need to know. Obviously, when you come in Azucena Pro, focus on every single move, learn everything there is to know. But for now, these are the moves you should focus on compared to the rest of the move set. So when we talk 10 essential moves, we have to start the list here with Run 3-2. To the point where I'm going to issue a warning. If you're watching anytime when the video went live, you're good to go. But if you're watching this video like 6 months in the future, this move might not work the same way as I'm about to describe it. It is one of the most complained about moves in the game right now because it is truly and well ignorant and powerful because it is so strong. So, as a running move, the first part here, because there is two parts, the 3 and the 2, the 3 part starts up in 15 frames, which makes it quite a bit faster than the majority of running attacks in the game. And also, it is a mid, not a high. Now, the second part is a high, but how this move works is it jails, meaning if you block the mid, you have to block the high. It's not like so many other moves in the game where like if you block the mid, you can duck the high. Doesn't work that way with this move. If you block the move at all, or take the hit at all, you're taking both hits guaranteed. Only in the weirdest of scenarios where like things might hit sideways or with like odd hitboxes will it never not work that way. Otherwise, it is well and truly just a sledgehammer. Because not only does it do good damage on hit, 37, you can also splat people up against the wall. If you're mildly close to the wall when you do it, you're going to get some pretty decent combo opportunities to work with and get some pretty decent damage. And bearing the lead here, I guess, but very plus on block. +5 on block, which is a very good amount of plus to be, and also chip damage on block. So when I say this move is the sledgehammer, this is the sledgehammer. When it comes to running moves, among the running moves in the game, it comes out much faster than most, and it is also a mid. And yes, there's the high technically, but it might as well not count, because if you take the mid, you have to take the high, end the story. So if you get the hit, great. If you get the hit near the wall, even better. Did you get blocked? Cool! Still pushing into the corner, still dealing chip damage, still very much my turn at +5. Like, there is effectively no downside to this move. This move is one of the most spammable and powerful moves in the game, bar none. As it stands, like if you're watching in the future, maybe it's nerfed, I don't know. But as it stands, literally go berserk on this move. There's no downside to it. It is all upside. It's her absolute best move and one of the best moves in the game. Now, next up when it comes to powerful moves you need to know for Azucena, it's everything that has to do with down forward 1. So down forward 1 by itself, 13 frame mid. Just good mid check. Nothing bad with that, right? By itself, barely negative on block, pretty decent on hit, but it has a lot of really good follow-ups. Not the least of which is down forward 1-4. So much like our very abusive run 3-2, this move also jails. If you get hit or block the mid, you have to take the high. You're not allowed to duck it. You're not allowed to do anything with it other than just either get hit or block. It breaks the normal rules of Tekken. There's a lot of other mid highs out there. Those you get to duck. Like here, we got the bot set, right? So mid, high, duck. Mid, high, duck. Down forward 1-4, mid, high, no dice. You have to block or get hit. End of story. So this makes our basic mid jab check here, 13 framer, more deadly because if it connects, free 28 damage. Not bad. And if it's blocked, surely it's negative, right? -7. But there's a lot of extra things you can do, which is what makes it really sassy. So we have down forward 1-4-1, where she'll just kind of bust out another hit. Now this can never naturally combo. This is here for people who want to take their turn right away. Like they block this, and fair enough, and then like, I got hit buttons right away. And the thing against this, if you hit buttons right away, it's going to counter hit you. And the note on counter hit, if you hit a button against it, boom, it's a crumple, and she's going to get a full combo on you. So mash a little too much, and my friend, that is all the way game over for sure. Now, the thing is, it is a high, and this high you are allowed to duck, unlike the other one, right? So that's something, but she also has a cancel for this. So if you do down forward 1-4-1, and then you roll that 1 into a 2, like a quick little motion here, then it turns that into a mid. And this mid will splat the enemy down on the ground pretty easily. And if it does, you can freely tap them like with multitude of lows, like anything that'll scrape the ground, you can bonk them on the head. Probably your best example will be down back 1+2, as it'll scrape them off the ground. 41 damage, not bad, right? So if they try to duck that high or try to while standing against it or whatever, it's just multi-layered. Good poke by itself, jails by itself, counter hit follow up 1, try to avoid the counter hit follow up 2, really good, and there's even more. If you hold forward while doing down forward 1-4-1, she goes into her Liberation Stance. And this has all sorts of funny gimmicks and all that we're going to talk about later in the video. But basically, it's just another way to fake people out and like mentally confuse them, make them lose concepts of their turn. You can try to gimmick them out. It's just multifaceted, super good, and it's all built off the foundationally sound, just 13 frame mid. What's not to love? Now, next we're going to talk stand 3. It's a little plain, but it's a good tool in the toolbox. So by itself, it's just a 14 frame mid. And if you do 3-3, it's a natural hitting combo, kind of splats the enemy. Now, it doesn't lead to guaranteed combos necessarily. The enemy can back roll it and kind of get out of jail for free. But if they do anything but back roll, then follow-ups are guaranteed. So you can just kind of follow through and just see. If they don't immediately back roll, it's going to be immediately obvious. And if which point here they don't, cool, you can scrape them with a down back 1+2, because if they don't immediately back roll, that's guaranteed. So the thing here about 3-3, very safe on block. It's only -1 with pushback, so like literally just might as well be just a neutral reset. The range is good for what it is. Admittedly, something like down forward 4 is better, although it's a little bit slower. And since it has a mid-high follow-up, naturally can be ducked. This isn't like the other examples. This one you can duck, but it also just has a mid follow-up. So if someone's trying to crouch under the high, goes into a mid. The mid is also a natural combo. +6 on hit. Admittedly, a little negative on blocks. +12 or -12 rather. So you'll be like a jab punish or something. But it's just there to get the people who are smartened up to the mid-high aspect of the original string. Also, if the mid hits by itself as a counter hit, it will splat the enemy down to the ground. And this one you cannot back roll. So the damage from this actually will be guaranteed. So if this situation ever comes up, just keep it in mind. So not much else than that. Just a good sound button. Good poke for what it is. Obviously more range than say you're down forward 1. And if you're further out, keep like things like a down forward 4 in mind, because that's got some range. Also has a follow-up as well. But yeah, just solid string. That's really all it needs to be. Next up here, we'll get a little boring for a second, but we'll talk stand 1. So Azucena, one of her strengths, she has among the best 10 frame punish games in the game. So when a move is punishable, but it's like the least punishable it can be, it can only be a basic jab, she wins out much more than the average character. Why? So stand 1, 10 frames, sure. And stand 2, 10 frames too, by the way. So if you want to play it safer, 2-1, quick 20 damage. But why do that? 1-1, what it does, also 20 damage, and it leaves her +8 in the enemy's face in her liberation stance. So when this happens, it's basically a free mix. Got hit, cool. Are we going low? Are we going like different kind of lows? Are we going like small mids? Are we going home run mids? Gotta start guessing, right? So just a quick jab punish puts you in a very advantageous state that the average character doesn't get, because it basically fixes the distance between the two characters, puts you in your stance with massive frame advantage over the enemy. A lot of characters just go like 1-2, that's it. And speaking of her and her 1-2, her 1-2 does a lot more damage than average, does 28. And also specifically, if you're somewhere near a wall, so the enemy does something punishable near the wall, it will indeed splat them off the wall. So if you happen to be in that situation, you can get a lot more damage off a 1-2 punish than the average character, to say the least, right? So just her stand jab, very good. So if you know you have a punish, but you don't know exactly, like, okay, is it 10, 11, 12, 13 frame punish? Like, just go for 1-1, and you will be well served, because you get your 20 damage in, and now it's also a pretty sizable mix-up in your favor. Next on the list is her orbital up forward 4. So there's many other kinds of moves like this. And she has like the generic launcher and the orbital, so she's very good, right? What is the orbital? If you don't know, basically it's a launcher, a little slower than the generic down forward 2, but what it is safe on block, and also, as it is airborne, it will go over lows very early into the move. So if you feel a low's coming your way, but you don't know like how, when, where it's coming your way, you're gonna say, no, I'm taking to the air, and this connects any way, shape, or form. Combo time, and everyone loves combo time. It's everyone's favorite time, right? So combo time on hit, safe on block, negative, sure. Goes over lows, just very strong, right? So it's a good way if you're at negative frames, but you think they're going to try to snipe you with a low when they have positive frames. It's a really good way to steal your turn back. And as such, is a solid workhorse of a move. Everyone that has one of these is glad to have one of these. Next up is Azucena's Power Crush. So just forward 1+2. And the thing about this one compared to some others, so it is a high, so it is duckable, sure, right? But one, you may notice immediately, it's a heat engager, so it already makes it very strong. Heat engager tied to your armored reversal-ish style of move when you want to steal a turn. That's always a big benefit. The thing here is, it is wildly, insanely fast for what it is. It's only 16 frames. Like most Power Crushes are like 20 to 25 frames, right? And you get the odd one that's not. This one is 16. That's crazy, right? So a lot of times with the Power Crush, like you'll hit the situation where like they'll hit you and they can stop attacking and still block the Power Crush, right? With a 16 framer, that is not happening. Your move, if you armor through something, you're definitely going through on the other side. And it's -8 with like very big time pushback. Like, you know, if you use it from a further distance, like if you're just looking at the close space, this is great. Like down forward 4, we talked about down forward 4 earlier, right? 16 frames as well. From here, whiffs. Power Crush? Nah, connects. Like this is a legitimate long range option. Forget the armor. This is actually a very good, just gain space quick, attack the enemy quick move, heat engager, safe on block. Like if you want to use it like, you know, kind of like as a poke kind of move, like jabs and stuff will whiff, right? So you can like freely gain your space back dash, like whatever you want to do. Or maybe you want to be silly and go for that Abare and attack again anyways, right? But yeah, good pushback. So the numbers on block are a suggestion unless it's done like point blank. Point blank, even then, actually, depending on the spacing, jabs can still miss, right? So it's just really good, like freakishly good for what it is. It's actually in my opinion, one of the best Power Crush attacks in the game. It is super fast. I don't have the numbers on every single one, but it has to be one of the fastest, if not the fastest. Has a heat engager tied to it, is safe on block, has a lot of pushback, and depending on the pushback and depending on where you are, you can kind of backdash out for free. Like, it has every trait you would want other than being a mid, but there's no way it can be all of those things and a mid on top of that. So, as a Power Crush, A+, very good. Now, for our next one, we're going to get back into a vanilla territory a little bit, but it's a good tool. You need good tools. So down back 4. Just a quick little snipe at the legs. That's all it is. 17 damage, negative on hit. So it's not one of those fancy ones where, you know, you can get like a little bit of pressure after the fact. Negative on hit is what it is. She is crouching for most of it, so she will low profile high attack. So that is useful, admittedly. At 19 frames, effectively unseeable. No one's blocking this on reaction, right? So when you're just doing your thing and you're just looking for some quick little snipes, get some lows, get some damage in, it's a good way to do it. Really simple as that. Is it one of the best lows in the game? Absolutely not. But is what Azucena has to work with? Yes. Now, one benefit is on counter hit, it will create like a little ouchie state. It will not naturally combo into anything, but if you get it, you can definitely know plus 12, it's certainly your turn next. You can enforce some kind of low-level mix-up on the enemy. And that's all it is. Just quick snipe, good range, admittedly, pretty decent range for what it is. So when you're just doing the old back and forth on the neutral here and you don't know what to do, just snipe at their toes with a quick down back 4. It'll probably work out. Next section, our next low option here, down back 3. So down back 3, unlike down back 4, is a good deal faster, 16 frames, and it does leave you advantage on hit, unlike down back 4. But there's a big trick to it, in that it forces you to go into backturn state. So for some people, this is a little scary. Like for me, I think this is a benefit because you have a lot of good options from backturn, but it's very predicated on what does the enemy know and what does the enemy not know. Like a lot of the options you can get, even though you happen to be plus 4 frames of advantage, if the enemy does like just down jab, it can beat a lot of them, but not all of them, including some very important options. And we'll get into it in the backturn section of the video, but it's an even faster low snipe and leaves you an actual advantage frames unlike down back 4. So you will get pressure. It's just a matter of mastering what the backturn game has to offer you. Got some easy quick do's. Got some interesting properties here, especially on counter hit, where you can get some very sassy things going on, to say the least. So if you're looking for a low that is a little more involved than just you're in, you're out, cash out, down back 3 is a good low for it. So next up here is up back 2, up forward 2, up 2, whatever you want to do. But basically, it is a sidestepping right punch. And what's really interesting about this is she creates a lot of space sidestepping to her right, which allows her to avoid quite a few moves. I don't know if it's quite as good as Fang's version, because his is really good. But just to have a move with like auto evasiveness built in is very powerful. Like say I take a move that's only mildly negative, right? I know if I get blocked and I like mash jab, I'll lose. Like say something like down forward 1 here, right? So on block, it's -3. So if we go for the jab after the fact, I'm always going to lose. Like that's kind of how it has to be, right? Because we're doing the same move, 10 frame jab. But even though I'm negative, I can actually bypass the move and go for that up 2 because I'm sidestepping to the right so hard. So here, once again here, they're going to go for the jab as soon as they block. And boom. I just sidestep it automatically, right? Now, if you're very negative, you're probably not going to beat whatever's coming out next. So use it to try to steal turns that are more lightly negative on block moves. And obviously certain moves track better than other moves, right? But it's just a decent way that if you're a little negative, you can try to steal turns back. Also, if they're slow for whatever reason, or you're just kind of doing the move by itself, it does cause a crumple on counter hit. And from counter hits, that absolutely means it is combo time, everyone's favorite time in the world, right? And you can kind of get whatever you want from there. So it's just a really strong way to steal turns on moves where you know you're negative, but not wildly negative, or just to toss out every now and then, because it is just very evasive by itself. It's better than her actual step in my testing, at least on certain situations. So you kind of just toss it out. Very big reward on counter hit to be sure, and see how it works for you. And finally, down 2. So down 2 in and of itself, it doesn't look like much. It's 20 frames, which is slower. It is a mid, which is nice. If it hits, +4 on hit, which is cool, and forces crouch on the enemy, and also leaves you in the crouching state, which is kind of where the magic is. And specifically on block, it's only -2. And being only -2 while you're left in the crouching state, that's kind of the benefit. As if they're not like super on the ball, you can steal turns like since you're now crouching, go for like crouching 1. That means if they go for like a 13 frame mid, even though you're negative, they're going to lose. Like you're going to win that scenario, right? So it's just a good move that actually keeps momentum flowing. Now, for characters that have 12 frame mids, that kind of ruins that plot, but there's not too many of those out there. And Azucena specifically just has a really good while standing and while crouching offense. And since this puts you in crouch, you get to utilize that, right? So like while standing 1, this quick mid, counter hit launcher. While standing 3, big old splat for the enemy, forces you in your stance. And very advantage, plus 16 on hit. And if it happens to be blocked, plus 4 on block with chip damage, and you're in the stance to mix them up too. If you're in crouching, full crouch down forward 3 is another really good low. If it hits as a counter hit, guaranteed ground throw. Like, her while standing and crouching offense is really good, and it's just a really good way to enable it, because it's a solid hit as it is. If it hits as a counter hit, by the way, you're going to get a full combo because it bounces. That's really good. If it's blocked, it's barely negative on block to the point where like it actually can't really stop some of your next offensive moves, unless they want to read it with like a low parry or they have something exceptionally fast to stop it. So it's just a really good move that enables a lot of the rest of your offense. In and of itself, like, don't always go for it point blank, especially in neutral situations. But when you know they're going to be probably just defensive, especially after, say, blocking run 3-2, they're probably not going to hit buttons after that, then it's a good way to like, okay, I'll do this. If you hit a button, you're probably going to get bopped. And if you didn't, then I can transition into my crouch offense from there. So in short, Azucena has a lot of interesting moves, obviously more than even what I've gone over. The ones that are just overwhelmingly powerful, like run 3-2, as we talked about to death, down forward 1-4, like these are the extra powerful moves that like kind of set everything else in the motion. Some of the moveset is admittedly just a little average, but considering her strengths are extra strong, that's what makes everything else go. Now let's talk stances. First one here we're going to talk is probably like the main reason you pick her as far as like the stance goes and uniqueness goes. This is Libertador stance. That is Spanish. I'm a big hillbilly from Canada, so I'm going to be saying Liberator stance or Liberation stance instead, okay? Sorry, that's just how we're going to do it. So what is Liberator stance? So on his face, she's kind of holding a pose, and if you hold the buttons, she will dance. That's just how she works. There's a lot of dancing with this character. You are picking up Azucena to dance, to say the least. Now, there's a very strong defensive property to this, but don't mistake it for like the reason you're here. The reason you're in this stance is to mix people up. The defensive part is for when people panic and maybe hit the wrong button, then that works out great in your favor. So while the stance is live, she will auto dodge all highs. It doesn't matter if it's a fast high, a slow high, whatever it is, it will auto dodge. And if it's a particularly slow high, she might get a guaranteed punish. And this also counts while she's moving, because you can freely move around in the stance, and she will still do the auto parries while you're kind of strutting your stuff. And also, she will auto counter all lows. So if you go for any kind of low, this will be guaranteed damage, no avoiding it. So that takes away 2 of your 3 options. Can't do highs, and you can't do lows. But what you can do is mids, and she can't block in the stance. So if you know how it works now, if you see that stance, go for a mid, it'll be literally guaranteed. So that's the weakness of the stance. So once again, don't rely on it necessarily for its defensive properties, because the enemy knows it's not going to work. Mids beat it for free, end of story. And if I go like mid then high, as long as the mid hits, everything else is going to hit. So the defensive property is a nice to have. But the actual power of the stance is the mix and the options you get from it. So let's talk that. So while you're in stance, let's talk some of the basics. Stand jab. So stand jab by itself, some of your attacks are going to be a little slower in this, so 13 frames. By itself though, it is plus on block and does chip damage. So hey, that's pretty nice. Plus 3 and does appreciable chip. And from there you can chain stand 1-2. So it's a natural hitting combo. And as you can see here, it kind of sends the enemy effing flying. So stand 1 specifically, not so much the string, but stand 1 is going to be good just to keep the enemy off the flow, as it's advantage on block, very advantage on hit, and chip damage. Stance 2 is a heat engager. So if it gets off, you know, you get your heat off and just go on the mix and go from there. Stance 3 is a quick little tap to your toes, and this will automatically put you in your Backturn Stance. So this isn't necessarily the low you always want to aim for, but it's an option. And there is a string 3-1, which will then become low mid. So if people like block low a second too late, then they'll get cranked by the mid. It is not a natural combo, although it will be on counter hit. And if it hits on counter hit, then it's +7, which will make whatever your back turn mix up you have work that much better. Stance 4 is where a lot of the money is going to be made. So by itself, it's a 15 frame mid. And the thing is, there's a natural combo here for 1. So if they're worried about the lows, which we'll talk about here, the big low anyways, that's a natural combo, get hit, sure. Now 4-1 is mid-high, so if they want to duck the second hit, you got 4-2, which is mid-mid. So that'll circumvent the ducking. It's a little unsafe on block, you know, versus this is like completely safe on block at only -2, so that's the penalty, right? But it's there to catch people who want to duck that high. Now here's the thing, so 4-1-2 is a big old wind-up hit, which is a tornado, but it is not a natural combo. But if this hits as counter hit, that is all a natural combo, and with the tornado, you're going to get some sizable guaranteed damage. So not bad damage at all, right? So if you get that counter hit, it's also very hit confirmable, because you'll see like that kind of screen shake happening, and they'll jump up in the air. So only do the follow-up if you see that's happening. There's also 1+2, which is a gigantic launcher. If it hits, hey, combo town. And that's about it. It is, like a lot of the rest, as you would expect, a bit unsafe on block, -14. Not -15, at least, thank God. But if you're just looking for the big home run swing, if you know someone's really terrified of that low, there you go. And let's talk the low. So down 4-4. This is the hell sweep. So this is your high-powered low. So quick enough for what it is, will catch people sleeping and send people flying, and you can just run after, get whatever pressure you want to get. So even though it's not the most, it's like, by far it's nowhere near the most damaging option, it's usually the one that's going to live rent-free in people's heads, because people hate being hit by like high damaging lows. So you do this until they're scared of it, and then like your 4-1s, your 1+2, like all your mid options will become more viable once they're scared of that big nasty hell sweep. And to sort of round out the package, if you just hit 3-4 while you're in stance, you get an armored full circle sweeping kick that also does chip damage. So really good. So if you're in the stance and you're scared they're going to do something gimmicky or whatever, or like for whatever reason you're in stance and at negative frames, this is a pretty good option to go. Also, as you can see here, near a wall, not a bad pick either. Basically just kind of caps everything else off, right? It is very safe on block, -5 with pushback, and full circle tracking, armored, like, it just makes everything else go. So if you don't know what to do, it's probably a good bet, because at bare minimum, it'll just sort of reset the situation. And once again here, you got all sorts of movement, and you can do all sorts of funky chicken walking, and yes, your parry stance, your counters and all that are live while you're doing your fancy walk. Also, you are allowed to do your up forward 1+2 command grab out of the stance. So if you're worried they're going to do something armored or parry or whatever while you're doing this, this will automatically beat all parries, all counters, all armor. That's a good option to have. You're allowed to do up forward 2 while in the stance as well, although it has to be specifically up forward 2. If you try to just do like up 2 or up back 2, it'll be just the mid punch instead. So watch out for that, for like inputs and all that. Has to be up forward 2 in the stance. And of course you can like flip around and go into other stances and go into it, right? That's sort of the nature of the game. So most of the situations will lead you into the stance are going to be at your pretty heavy advantage. Could be something like just 1-1 automatically puts you in stance plus 8 frames in their face. Could be certain strings like back 1-1. Like there's a lot of ways to transition into the stance, and most of the time it's going to be to your benefit. So even though it's got all the weird defensive properties, don't think of it so much as that. It's nice when it goes off, sure. But basically, once you're in this stance, you're probably at plus frames, and then you're going to be using your stance moves to mix up the enemy. That's kind of the core of the Liberator stance. And whenever you're in stance and you just don't know what to do, you just hit down back, it'll cancel the stance. So if you're not prepared to go into whatever you want to do, you just do that, and then just leave, go for like something silly like the UFO roll, whatever you want to do, you can just go for it. Now that we talked Liberator stance, let's talk Backturn Stance. So many characters get backturn from one reason or another. Some characters can fight pretty decent from backturn. Azucena is one of them. And also, just to note, most of the time when you're going to be in backturn stance is going to be on the back of down back 3. because it's your quick pokey low, and it automatically transitions you into Backturn Stance at +4 frames. Now, it's not quite as involved as the Liberation Stance, but you still got some stuff. So, stand 1 here, 0 on block, and +6 on hit. Has 1-2, natural string, 32 damage, which is not bad at all. This is true 10 frames. So, if you know someone's just going to mash right out of the gate after down back 3, this is a good way to clock them. Also, that string is indeed high, so if they're going to duck and go, you know, after the double high, duck low, try to punish, we do have 1-4, which is high mid. So it'll catch those people ducking at 30 damage. Now this one, though, unfortunately, more unsafe, -11, so tiny punish if they're on the ball, but still not bad. We got a fun one here, technically adjust frame, but it's very easy. Just back turn 2 and hit 2 when the move roughly connects. And you'll basically go in like this automatic throw animation. 38 damage, very high. The base hit by itself is 17 frames. So, like in this situation here, where you're +4 after back turn, after down back 3, if they're mashing quick buttons, you're going to lose. So this is a conditioning move, right? But for what it is, very low risk. It's safe on block at -8. If you get blocked, it doesn't transition the animation. It's just always -8. It's always safe. So just good little feather in your cap. Big reward, low risk. You also go back turn 3. Back turn 3 is pretty all right, as it's another low. It's a much stronger low at 23 damage. Also leaves you plus in their face in Liberation Stance. And big time reward on counter hit, as it's a guaranteed ground grab. And you can't tech grounded grabs in this game. So counter hit's almost 50 damage off that. Not bad for a low. Back turn 4 is a quick pokey mid. 15 frames, so off the down back 3, like unless they're doing 10 framers, you'll probably catch whatever they're doing. Advantage enough on hit, also has a natural string here, 4-3, which is a natural combo at 30 plus damage, not bad. Although unfortunately the string by itself, very punishable at -14. 1+2 is your big counter hit. So 14 frame startup, so basically exactly neutral if you go off the down back 3. And by itself, -11, slightly punishable. And if it connects, +3 is kind of whatever. The magic is specifically on counter hit. If they whiff any button at all trying to come at you, boom, big punch to the gut, crumple, guaranteed combo, go from there. So that's the keep them honest button. The fastest thing they could do to you is a 10 frame move. And that means at fastest timing, you'd still both trade, and better believe, laugh it up all the way to the bank, because if we get that trade, that is exactly where we're going with this. All the way to the bank. Big time damage. So don't worry if you took a couple points of damage, you'll win out in the end. So that's back turn 1+2. We also have back turn 3+4. And this is a very interesting stomp. This is very evasive. Obviously goes over lows. Some poor mids it can also go over. It is safe on block. And if it connects at all, it's just automatic combo. So if you're doing something like low profile, the lows coming your way, if you think they're coming away, or maybe some special lows like some down jabs. So once you got it, easy enough combo structure, and just kind of take them to the cleaners, really. Like, that's kind of all there is to it. Get some decent damage in, right? So evasiveness, counter hits, pokes, like there's a lot of stuff we can do from back turn stance. Not the least of which we can go into Liberation Stance. We have a very powerful sidestep in back 3 and back 4. Kind of better than your base sidestep. So if you're thinking they're going to hit buttons, you can definitely make them whiff with this. And if you're just too scared, don't want to deal with anything, you can literally just run away with back 1+2. And back 1+2 is interesting because it actually has a mid parry kind of built into it. It'll trigger like that little cinematic angle you saw right there. And then it just guarantees your escape. And it goes live very early, but it's only for mids, not highs, not lows. And once again, it just gets out of dodge quick by itself. So if you're just looking to get away, it's a good way to do it. It's a good coward escaping move. So back turn stance, just like the Liberator stance, has its stuff. Once again, it's going to be mostly on the back, down back 3, because that's just your quick harassing low, which automatically puts you in a stance anyways. If it connects, you can just leave the stance, leave stance, just like hold back. Or if you specifically hold down back, you will like evasively get out of the way. So whichever way you want to do it, back or down back. Down back's a little safer, I guess, right? Otherwise, if you want to commit after down back 3 and do all the options, like I said, there's all sorts of stuff. We got counter hits for people who mash. We got general pressure for people who just want to hit buttons. We got good pokes. We got evasiveness and stuff like 3-4 that leads into full combo on regular hit. Doesn't even need counter hit. And we got fun little cinematic things like 2 on hit 2, right? So a lot of cool things in the Backturn Stance. Now, Azucena and Heat Mode. Hey, Heat Mode's good for everybody, right? Azucena, to me, admittedly, I think she's a bit weaker than most in Heat Mode. Compared to some of the other guides we've done on the channel for some of the other characters like Paul or Jack, which you can check on playlists on the channel, by the way, they're pretty good guides. She doesn't get anything like what those guys get, right? Those guys get overwhelming strengths in Heat Mode, and Azucena gets just some nice to haves. Like, obviously, the universal benefits of Chip are cool. Her Heat Smash isn't bad for what it is. 15 frame startup, big old hit. Decently plus on block, leaves you in stance in front of their face, so you get a mix-up right after the fact if they block it. So, like, that's good. That's fine. What's allegedly the big deal in Heat Mode for her is the fact that her Liberation stances, you can go into it just, like, immediately. Like, you can go into it much faster, and the benefits of the stance are much better. So, before, she would auto-evade all highs, and now while in Heat, all highs just get auto-countered, like the lows do, and all those get launched. So you get a combo opportunity. It uses your tornado, so it's not a gigantic combo, but it's certainly better than just, you know, the base hit, right? So basically, both get buffed, and of course, mids still does nothing against mids. The low launcher, you can also use it manually while you're in Liberation Stance. Just hit down and both kicks together. Nebulously useful, but it's there. The benefit is what changes in certain moves. Like, so 3-2, normally you can cancel the 2 into the Liberator Stance. And now you get the much faster version. So you can kind of just really fake people out. Handy. The bigger deal is certain moves now you can basically Heat Dash cancel without spending all your bar. So you'll do a flip, you can follow up, but it doesn't take everything like a normal Heat Dash cancel. So say back 2, right? Back 2 is a pretty decent move in and of itself. And if you hit back 2 while you're in Heat Mode and then hit forward, you'll do the hop right here. And then from the hop, you can actually continue forward and combo. And say on block normally, back 2 is +2 already, which is handy. If you do the cancel hop version of it, it's now +7. And you're in stance, because it puts you in stance, so like certainly better mix-ups. Other strings as well, like back 1, 1, 2. If you're in Heat Mode, you can do back 1, 1, 2, hold forward. And then you'll do the hop as well, right? Liberator Stance 1, 2. You can also kind of hop cancel that. And if it connects, you will get a full combo. So it lets certain strings get combos you wouldn't get on normal hit before, and lets you do quasi Heat Dash cancels in situations you couldn't before. So just to show you a couple examples here of what it can allow, right? So once again here, back 2 becomes a combo starter with this. So you can do something like this. Sort of a basic example, admittedly, but like gives you an idea. You happen to be in Liberator Stance, and all of a sudden the basic 1-2, it's a lot more deadly because you can kind of just flip into it. And once again here, just turn a basic 1-2 into almost 60 damage. So it just lets you get a bit more inventive with the routes, and also all the cancels make whatever string you're doing from them. And granted, there's not many strings. It's back 2, back 1, 1, 2, and stance 1, 2. But if you cancel them, it just makes them all very advantage on block. And that's about the long and short of it. So you got some interesting gimmicks, but it's not like foundational like it is to some other characters. Certainly aim for it. And if you're abusing her forward 1 + 2 like you should, you'll be in Heat Mode pretty often anyways, right? So now that you know some of the gimmicks you can get, changing certain moves into like semi-combo starters, making them much more advantage on block. Now that you know how it works, I'm sure you'll surprise more than a few people with it. Now, in our next section, I just want to talk about counter hits in Azucena. So Azucena has a much higher than average amount of significant counter hits. And I'm not talking counter hits where like you get a little bit more damage or maybe get a better knockdown. I'm talking like consequential counter hits. So let's kind of just rapid fire through these. 1 + 2, 15 frame high, counter hit, crumple, full combo. And for the sake of brevity, I won't show full combo for every time, but just give you an idea. Down forward 3, 17 frame mid knee, counter hit, crumple, full combo. Down 1, 20 frame mid. Counter hit, full combo, go from there. While standing 1, 13 frame mid. Counter hit, crumple, full combo. Down forward, 1, 4, 1. So we talked about this earlier in its own section, but it basically has a counter hit bait in the 1. And if you mash buttons while that's happening, crumple, full combo. Down back 3, 4, not a natural combo by itself, but on counter hit, launcher with tornado, full combo. Down 4 has 2 string follow-ups here, and one is to catch you hitting buttons. So that's down forward, 1, 2, roll. That's mid. That's safe on block. And that connects as a counter hit. Crumple, full combo. Up 2, the evasive sidestep attack. On counter hit, crumple, full combo. Back turn 1+2. This is your anti-mashing move while you're in back turn state. On counter hit, crumple, full combo. Back turn 3, which is a stronger low option from the back turn state. On counter hit, guaranteed low grab into heat engager. Full crouch 3, a decent low for what it is, a decent range as well. So full crouch 3 on counter hit, guaranteed low grab into heat engager, 50 damage. And there's a lot of other like smaller counter hit things too. Once again, they give you like little bonuses. We're just talking like the more significant ones. So Azucena is just dripping with like all sorts of great counter hits. So a great part of her game plan is to throw the enemy off their flow. Just do weird things they don't expect, make them think it's safe to hit buttons. And when they do, counter hit, full combo. Now to briefly talk on Azucena's throw game. So on paper, she's like most of the cast. Like she's got the generics, sure. Some people seem to really like the animation of them. You know, the up forward 1+2, all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of it on paper. Other than the fact that she has a couple interesting things, like she has a crouching grab, a low grab, and a couple ways to go into it as we've gone over in the video. Forward, forward, 4 is another good way to force a crouch. Gives you a guaranteed grab on hit. That's very handy. And for her, it's also a heat engager, which makes it just all the more valuable and powerful yet. But its main function is to be comboed into a lot of time rather than just kind of doing it raw. So, whatever. But the thing to note is she is one of the very few characters in the game with the ultimate tackle. Just hold down and 1+2. And then, as usual, we kind of get like the punching minigame after the fact. Or you can go for arm breakers. I'm just bringing it up just because she's one of the very few characters that has it now. It used to be Universal Mechanic. Now, I believe it's her, Paul, and King, and that's it. She does have one throw, which is very different, though. It's effectively just a low. So it is the UFO roll. And she'll kind of grab at your feet and kind of break your leg a little bit. And by the way, in case you don't know, there is a shocking amount of UFO references, like Caffeine Abduction, Foo Fighter. Like, there's a lot of UFO references in her moveset. You know, her stage has the UFO. There's a gray alien in her stage too, by the way. It's hidden, so go try to find it, but it's there. But yeah, so it's a 25 frame startup, so it is slower, it is reactable, but what's interesting about this is 1, it leaves you in your stance directly on top of the enemy, so mix up and pressure, that's good. 2, it is untechable. If you get hit, that's it. There's no possible way to tech out of it. You simply get hit. How you beat it is by ducking. And it's very interesting because it makes her safer in a way than a lot of other throws. So if you're crouching when this comes in, once again, you can just kind of react to it and crouch on sight, right? They'll just kind of kick you off. So it'll deal damage to you, Azucena, as gray recoverable damage, but that's it. Unlike, say, if you went for like the big throw and they were expecting it, and then they hit you with like while standing 2, launch you or something like that. No, like you'll take your little bit of damage, but that's all the punish you'll eat. Nothing more than that. So no guaranteed combo, no nothing. So it's a little slower, yes, but the risk is somewhat minimized because this is the most you can ever take from it, is a bit of gray damage. So even though it's a bit on the slower end of things, you're trying to sneak out a quick win. It does a little bit more damage than some of your other low options. And it puts you in a pretty favorable position as you're directly on top of them in stance as they're on the ground. So certainly not like a traditional grappler game plan by any stretch compared to a lot of the rest of the cast, but unique compared to some of the other characters. Now let's talk Azucena's basic combo structure, wall carry, wall combos. Azucena is blessed, if a little vanilla, in that she kind of has just the same generic combo structure for everything. Pretty much with very rare exception, it'll always look something like this. And you get your tornado and you follow up. And if there's no wall, that's usually the combo you go through because it has the most wall carry. And if you are near a wall, then we'll figure it out as we'll talk about. So we're going to use the generic down forward 2 launcher, and I'm going to give you 2 examples. They mostly do the same damage. One does 1 point more damage than the other one, but the one that does 1 less damage has better wall carry. So I'll let you figure out which one you prefer. So that's our 2 core base B&B combo structures. And once again, they work off just about everything. Just prefer what do you want, just a smidge more damage or a smidge more wall carry. And to note, we talk so much about crumples and all that counter hit stuff in the video. Generally speaking, if it's a crumple and not a launch, the 4-3 starter will whiff. Like, you're not going to get the whole combo, right? So for those ones that are crumples, down forward 1, down 2, 3, kind of go from there. That's generally the combo route you're going to want. And generally as well, the counter hit crumples do a lot more damage than the basic launcher. One thing to note before we transition to the wall section, I do want to bring up, for these styles of combos here, where you're going in the stance 4-1-2, don't hit 4-1-2 right away. Let them fall down to the ground a little bit, because you can pick them up off the ground. If you're doing it as fast as you can, there's chances that it'll whiff. So if you let them just fall a little bit, there's no chance it'll whiff, basically. So if you're ever in the basic launcher combo and you go for stance 4-1-2 and you're like, how come the punch whiffed? It's generally just because you just did it a smidge too early. Just wait for them to fall a little bit and you'll always be good to go. Now, when it comes to combo structure, either generic launcher, could be the orbital, wall standing 2, it doesn't really matter. It all sort of leads to the same deal, just the buttons you press, but our corner carry is pretty decent as it stands. So we'll use, say, orbital here as an example. So there we go. After the tornado, they're basically already at the wall, right? From mid-screen on most stages. So we'll set this here as a record point, so we can just come back to this and show you some examples of what we can do. Now, a lot of times, if they're like tornadoed right into the wall without actually hitting the wall, your options can be a little limited, because some of the things you'll want to float them up for, like, it's just not going to work out the same way with more traditional wall combos. In these situations, though, at bare minimum, you can always just kind of jab them into the wall, and then go for, like, say, a down back 1+2. It'll have them low on the ground, therefore better scaling. It'll do 11 damage by itself. Or say, jab them into the wall, and back 4-3-4. Same deal. It'll hit better with the scaling as that last hit hits them on the ground. So take your damage where you can get it, right? But mid-screen, this leaves you very basic options, because you want to float them high on the wall, and we already use a tornado. And since they're already touching the wall, we're not necessarily going to get as much as we could. So now, if we know we're going to sort of hit the wall from mid-screen, what we want to do is actually just change up our combo a little bit. It's suboptimal at the start, but it'll lead to more damage in the end. So once again, same starter, right? And we're going to start mostly the same way, but instead of going for 4-1-2, we're going to go for the stance 1+2, which will use the tornado, but it won't use the tornado to leave them right at the wall, so then we can guide the launch. And now we can kind of run up. And now we splat them on the wall. Now they're high up on the wall. Now we can do a lot better. So it's down forward 1-4-1, and we'll set this as a record point. So now you can see just send them flying across the screen, right? So now when we charge and run up, from here, we can go something more optimal, like down forward 1-4, 1-2. So instead of down forward 1-4-1, you kind of like roll your finger 1-2. Don't hit them at the same time, but you just sort of roll them, and you'll get the big old swing. And for us, that big old swing hits right as they're on the ground, so we get those additional hits that are heavily scaled. But the big swing hits as they're on the ground, so it does 50% scaling because they're grounded, and just a big old chunk of 11 damage to just kind of cap off our combo. So that now we're doing like 80s, so we're doing pretty all right. Now that string's sort of the go-to, but another one is while standing 4-1-3. It's not going to lead to the same big damage, but there's going to be a lot of situations where this just hits better, and in situations where you can't get the down forward 1-4, that will work, right? So practice your routes, figure it out, right? One's obviously better than the other, but sometimes the other one will only work. So down forward 1-4-1 is really good for hitting on the wall further away, But if you're a little bit closer, then we want, say, that down forward 4-1. Now, we also mentioned how we're changing the combo because of being too close, right? So that means the general B&B combo from further away works out just fine. As you can see, right? So corner carry, wall carry, really good. Just got to really pay attention to the distances you're at. And if we already happen to be at the wall, be at the corner, then certain moves get a lot more valuable, like say back 2, full circle tracking, plus on block, and splats on the wall, right? So now all of a sudden, much more valuable. So just to give an idea, boom, 4-4-3, then the same ender you've been seeing. Things like the armored forward 1+2, also really good on the wall. So, you know, splat them, do whatever. Generally, if you're hitting them on the wall, if you're looking for your tornado, good one's usually down forward 4-1, or you can go for forward 4-3 to launch them up in the wall. Like anything that tornadoes will put them up decently on the wall, and you can kind of go for the basic enders from there. So it's not a complex wall game by any stretch, but you know, it works. It doesn't need to be fancy, right? If it works, that's great. Now that said here, let me give you some other combo examples for the character besides just the generics. And that is a look at Azucena. So once again here, yeah, she's a stance character in a way, but hopefully now that you understand how all this works, it seems less scary. I know stances tend to scare a lot of people off in fighting games, but for her, it's actually just straight up not that bad. I would even say in a lot of ways, she's kind of basic. She just kind of goes, and attacks, and thanks to certain brain dead moves like run 3-2, she's very, very good at exactly that. And that said, hopefully all the information that you've seen in this video has helped you understand the character and learn the character, and hopefully that helps you play the character better. And that all said, well, I guess we're at the end of the video. So Azucena, I think, is a pretty cool character. I think she's a very worthwhile new introduction to the roster. I like her style. I like everything she does, just kind of exudes cool. Like her stage is one of the better stages in the game in my opinion, just because it's fun and silly, and she's just neat, and that kind of sells itself, I think. So that said, since you made it to the end, if you could spare a like, it'd be nice. It does sincerely help the video. And otherwise, since we're at the end of the video, thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Tekken.